Welcome to the DreamWork Summit, where DreamWork experts, renowned psychology professionals, and brilliant authors will help you tap into the soul-guided healing wisdom and creativity within your dreams. Share this event with your friends and family, and come join us on Facebook at the Shift Network. And now your host, Kimberly Mascaro, PhD.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad that you're joining us. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest today, Dr. Clare Johnson. Dr. Clare Johnson was the first person in the world to do a PhD on lucid dreaming as a creative tool. Author of many books, including Llewellyn's Complete Book of Lucid Dreaming, she is a past president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams and leads ocean lucidity retreats in stunning locations, as well as online workshops that lead people deep into the mysteries of dreaming. Welcome, Clare. It's so great to have you with us today.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for inviting me onto the summit. I'm really excited to be here and to speak with you again.
Well, tell us, how does our dreaming mind talk to us, Clare?
Right, great question. The dreaming mind has many ways of communicating with us. And most of the time what we'll notice is that it has an extremely symbolic language. You'll have a dream and sometimes you'll think, well, what did that dream mean? I have no idea. And other times it will speak to us really directly in very concrete ways. So I can give you a couple of examples. So, for example, there was one woman who was going through a divorce and she had a dream that she was wearing a really tight corset that was really restricting her breathing. And in the dream, it was very uncomfortable to be wearing this corset. And so she moved towards the changing rooms and was able to take off this restrictive corset. And afterwards, she wondered what the dream was saying, and she wondered if there was a healing element to this dream, because we were talking about how you can pick up the healing moment or the healing symbol in a dream. And we figured it out together and talked about it. And at first she thought the healing element of her dream might be the changing room, because that's a place where you go to change. And as we talked about it, we realized that actually the corset was also a healing element of the dream, because although it was uncomfortable, that was what was forcing her towards this important change in her life, so that she could free herself of her restrictive marriage and step out into someone else and become like a sort of butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. So that's an example of a symbolic dream. It was pretty easy to unpack that one for her. But then we also have dreams which can be incredibly concrete, that can tell us there's something wrong with us. These can be very distressing dreams or nightmares where we have very difficult emotions to cope with. And sometimes dreams actually point out when we have illness as well. There's been a lot of research done by Dr. Larry Burke into breast cancer dreams. And one woman, Wanda Birch, had a dream that her deceased father came up to her in the dream and shouted, "You have breast cancer." And so that, again, as she went to the doctor and found that she did have breast cancer. So dreams are amazing because they will speak to us either symbolically or extremely directly. And when we work with dreams, we can unwrap their meaning and uncover the healing gift that they so often have for us. So what I often say is that all dreams come to help us, and all dreams come to heal us. So when we open ourselves up to our dreaming minds, when we keep a dream journal, when we keep that precious connection with our dreams, then we are inviting healing into our lives. And that's a really wonderful thing.
Those are some incredible dream examples as well. And how you talked about the concrete and the more, I guess, subjective or symbolic.
Dreams. Yeah, well, I hear so many dreams from so many people, and I'm constantly amazed by what happens. And, you know, you're a dream worker yourself, and so you know all about this, but it's like people will come to you with a dream and say, what does this dream mean? And you think, well, it's not my dream, we need to work on this together to unpack it, ask questions about it. But I'm constantly amazed by the wisdom of the dreaming mind and the way that it communicates with us just so creatively. It's incredible, the symbols it chooses, and the way it can provide us with a guiding light on our path through life.
That's right. Sometimes it's so clear. And other times I wake up just really scratching my head, even after logging the dream and revisiting the dream. So it's dreams, are really amazing. And I'm very interested in healing in relationship to dreams. And so can you talk a little more about like the liminal states of consciousness within which we can instigate healing?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about today was the fact that we can access healing far more easily than we think, very deep healing. And by liminal states of consciousness, what I'm talking about is simply, for example, when we lie down and relax, close our eyes, and begin to go deep within. So when we start to fall asleep, we reach this transitional state of consciousness where often we'll see imagery or experience strange sensations, maybe sensations of dropping or falling or floating, and the imagery can be really bizarre. And this is called hypnagogic imagery. And when we see this, as we're falling off to sleep, if we manage to remain conscious in that state, we find that we are conscious in an incredibly creative state. And in creative states of consciousness, such as these liminal states between sleep and wake, we can instigate great levels of healing. So one thing that I wanted to talk about was when you do a yoga nidra practice, which is when you lie down and you relax deeply, you do a body scan, and allow yourself to float on the cusp of sleep. So you reach this cusp state. So the goal of yoga nidra is not completely falling asleep, and it's not being far too awake with your mind buzzing around. You've got to kind of like get that balance right. And that's when you'll see some of this hypnagogic imagery, or you might see a light shining in your mind, or things like lights moving towards you, or waves, all sorts of things, or faces will pop up. It can be quite astonishing. But when you are in that liminal state where you can't really feel your body and you're on the cusp of sleep but lucid, you're aware, then if you can invite healing into your body, or you can invite it into your mind, just bring healing energy into you in that state. And that has an incredibly strong effect. It can be deeply healing simply to imagine that there's a ball of healing light that moves all the way down through your body and perhaps settles on the area where you have any kind of physical problem, like in your belly, if you have problems with your gut, for example. And so these kind of states can bring us into a deeper contact with ourselves. It's very, very close to dreaming, and you'll get that dream imagery popping up every now and again as well. But these are states in which we are so free and so creative, and we connect with the deepest core of ourselves. We can really find deep harmony in these states, and that in itself is also very healing. So I think with dreams, we have this entire world that we can visit, and it's not just the dreams when we're fast asleep at night, and it's not just lucid dreams when we become aware that we're dreaming in the dream, although it's that too, of course, but it's also these other states of consciousness, these transitional states, which is so fascinating.
Well, you've used the term lucid light before, and is that what you were speaking about here, or is that something else?
Well, the lucid light is a term that I came up with after very many years of fascinating experiences where I would actually be in the dream state. I would be in a lucid dream, which is where you know that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. And then all of the imagery, all of the dream furniture, as I like to call it, the houses and the cars and the people would just dissolve, would disappear. And I would find myself floating in this immense, endless light. absolutely incredible. It's such an incredible feeling. And what would happen in those states would then be that I would kind of dissolve as well. The little ego Claire would just dissolve into this light. And sometimes I would feel like I was zooming through the light. And what would happen is I would become one with that light. So I would still feel conscious. I'd be like a speck of consciousness, but one with this light. And those would be very timeless experiences, and very, very refreshing and deeply healing as well. And so I termed this the lucid light when I did PhD work into lucid dreaming as a creative tool. And this is one of the states I kept encountering and didn't understand, but I really loved it. It was just incredible. And as I started to research more about this state, I realized how incredibly healing it can be. There was one man, for example, who was diagnosed with stage 4 throat cancer. And he had his operation. And then after that, for many weeks when he dreamed, they weren't like normal, regular dreams, you know. He would have dreams that he would be floating in a cube of white light. And he knew that he was being healed in this cube of white light. And so that's one example of the lucid light. When I was pregnant, I would find myself floating in orange light. Just pure orange light. I've never had those dreams before. And that I knew that was helping me, supporting me with my baby, with my pregnancy. And those are very magical too. So the lucid light, it doesn't matter what color it is. It can also be black light. We can find ourselves floating in this black kind of luminosity. But the amazing thing about it is that it seems to me that it's the baseline state of consciousness. So we think of the baseline state as being the waking state, you know, this state right now, this must be the baseline. But I don't think it is. I think that when we go deeper, when we let everything fall away, this world of appearances, either in the waking world or in the dream world, we fall through into something else. It's like the source state of consciousness. And that's kind of what I have explored when I go on my adventures into the lucid light. And it seems to be reflected also in the experiences of light that can occur when we have near-death experiences. But I think the lucid light is not far away. This healing light is never more than a breath away. You know, we always think, oh, you have to do this and take these steps to get there. But no, it's actually inside us all the time. It's like the quiet, soulful core of ourselves. And this is what we can also reach when we do a yoga nidra practice, for example, or when we have a spiritual lucid dream or a spiritual nightmare. There are nightmares as well, which turn into incredible spiritual experiences all by themselves. And that's another thing that fascinates me, is the amazing way that nightmares can help us too. So my latest book is all about nightmares, the art of transforming nightmares. And one nightmare that really stayed with me of all of the ones that I received was of a woman who was, she was standing in this country somewhere, and she saw sort of a black cloud coming towards her, and she was terrified, and she knew whatever it was coming to annihilate her and that entire country, that there would be nothing left. And as it got closer, she realized they were dragons. They were winged dragons flying towards her. And one of them came really close, and she knew, oh no, when it comes to me, it's going to breathe fire. I'm going to suffer unbearable pain, and then I'm going to die, and then there's going to be nothing. Because that's what she believed that death was, that it's just like nothing. That's the end of everything. So she stood there petrified, and this dragon came close, and it opened its mouth to breathe fire. And she had time to notice the beauty of the colors on its scales. It was really amazing rainbow colors. And then as it started to shoot flames out onto her, she was able to notice, just before the flames hit, she was able to notice the beauty and the colors of the flames. It was incredible orange and yellows and purples. And then the flames hit her. But instead of pain, followed by death and nothingness, she experienced the most incredible bliss and found herself in this incredible white light that supported her on every level. And she realized that she was one, that we are all one. And she woke up from that dream and said that she'd found her faith. Like she'd realized death is not just the end of everything, life goes on, and that she has a place in the universe. And so that's one example of how a dream can quite spontaneously go from a nightmarish scenario into something incredibly healing and spiritual. So dreams are amazing. They constantly amaze me.
That's an incredible dream. I mean, that's a very profound dream. You don't hear dreams like that very often.
No, that's true.
And I have so many questions right now for you.
Great.
Questions about nightmares, but I am first maybe going back to the light. So thank you for clarifying the lucid light from different types of light in dreams. I'm more familiar with the black light over the clear light, just in my few experiences of having those awakened states. But what I'm hearing you say is that when it comes to healing ourselves, we can get help, whether we're in a lucid state or a non-lucid state, or even the state as we're falling asleep through our imagination and through just bringing in, kind of that imagination, that power, right then. And that's how I think of it. It's very powerful.
It's extremely powerful. We're all far more powerful than we know. And that's a really great thing to discover. And we all have this healing potential within us, and it's vast and it's accessible. It's just a question of knowing, there are so many ways of accessing it. It's a question of knowing those ways and knowing the steps, and then we're there. It's really not hard, and it doesn't have to be a great big kind of mystery of how to get there. I think it's so much easier than many people think. I also think that adults particularly, they have these often they have sort of psychological blocks around things, and many of the adults who come to me for private sessions will say, I don't know how to heal myself. I'm not an imaginative person. I don't remember my dreams. I can't do this, and they really feel that like a wall, it's like a wall for them. And with a few simple steps, you can help them to get to somewhere where they are in a healing space. One of the things I'd like to mention, since this is a dreamwork summit, some of the dreamwork practices that I've developed, the main one that I want to talk about is called lucid writing, because this is something we do in a waking state, but it's kind of like a trance-like state as well. We're not sort of sitting here wide awake, we're very relaxed. So lucid writing can be very transformative. I developed it as a creativity tool when I did my PhD, but then soon I realized when I started teaching it internationally that people were healing. They were healing themselves from nightmares. They were healing themselves from difficult relationship patterns that they've been sort of locked into. And so I understood that it had a far vaster potential than I had initially thought. And so lucid writing is really easy. All you do is you take a vivid dream and you close your eyes and you bring that vivid dream into your mind and really bring it to life. So it's vivid, you can see the colors, you can see the people, you can feel the emotions. And then you just let that dream develop. Just let whatever happens. No forcing, no pushing, just see what happens. You may have some sort of general intent, like, okay, if it's a nightmare, I'd like to know what it's about, or I'd love to find the healing image here, or something like that. But you never push it. It has to flow. And so you let this develop in your mind's eye, and you're working directly with these unconscious personal dream images, and it will start to flow. And then you take your pen and you open your eyes only a little bit, just enough to kind of see where you are, and you write without stopping. And there's no sense of judgment, no critical mind. You just keep writing, whether you think you're writing a load of rubbish or not, doesn't matter. You have to keep writing. That's the one rule. And what you'll find is, because you've got this connection with your dream imagery, it will just, things will transform and they will spill out onto the page, and you will have these insights around your dream, and you'll maybe even find that something very healing happens within that state. For example, one woman had always had these recurring nightmares of being chased by something terrible. Didn't know what it was. Something horrible was behind her, and it was very, very scary, and she would run and run and run. And she did a lucid writing session in one of my workshops. And she said for the very first time, she asked for help in her lucid writing when she re-entered the dream. She said, please help me. And all of a sudden, out burst all these mythological beasts who were her friends, these monsters who were her friends, and also strong human friends. All these allies came out. And she said it was so amazing to know how protected she was and how many resources she had. She was far stronger than she could have believed. And those nightmares, they won't, they're not going to come back. When you've made that change, this is the amazing thing. Very often, once you've made that psychological shift and you've reminded yourself, I have power, I have allies, I have protection, then those dreams don't need to come back again. Dreams come, they talk to us through nightmares sometimes because they want our attention. But ultimately, all they're doing is they're like a red flag saying, hey, there's an issue here, something you haven't faced, or something that you're going to need to just expand upon or look at. And then once we've got the message, once we've acted on the dream or reacted to it, then they don't need to come back anymore. And so healing can take place very subtly and actually very quickly as well, depending on the situation and the person. Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited, for your forthcoming book, The Art of Transforming Nightmares. And of course, you focus on bad dreams. But let's talk about this a little more, about advice you would give to a nightmare sufferer, because that's so important. So many people experience scary dreams, and some are afraid to go to bed. So could you share some advice that you would give?
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I will. That's a good question, because the thing is as well with nightmare sufferers, there are so many different types of nightmares. Some of them are post-traumatic nightmares. Others are anxiety dreams that just get worse and worse until the dreamer wakes up. And others are kind of the regular nightmares that we all get from time to time that will just highlight an issue, something that's happening in our relationship or at work, or a general fear that we have, perhaps something like that. So there are many different types of nightmares. And one of the things I do in the book you just mentioned is I have like a nightmare quiz, so people can work out what kind of a sleeper and dreamer they are, in order to figure out which are the best practices for them to help them with their own nightmares. But the general thing that I would say is that, nightmares, even the worst nightmares, are healing gifts on some level. They are. So if we change our attitude to nightmares, and it can be really hard. I mean, like you say, there's some people who are scared to go to sleep at night because their nightmares are so horrendous. But when they recognize that there's a reason for those nightmares and that the nightmares are ultimately trying to help them, and when they have the courage to unwrap the nightmare, look at it, try and figure out its message, then they are already on the path to healing. So nightmares are healing gifts. That would be my kind of general advice. Remember this, and we can work with them in very gentle ways. So, for example, with the lucid writing that I just mentioned, do a dream re-entry and just see what happens. But I will just say right now that some nightmares should not be worked on alone. When a nightmare is overwhelming in really kind of really heavy emotions, such as guilt. For example, you look out of the window and there's a funeral procession. You know that your mother is in the coffin and you are the reason she's dead. Something really, really heavy like that. I wouldn't work on it on my own. I would, in that person's place, go and see a therapist, or a dream worker, and have someone who can safely help you unpack the dream and those difficult emotions. The same with nightmares of being tortured or really beaten up until you die, things like that. So if things are really, really heavy, then get help. Always get help. You don't have to go through it on your own. But for other nightmares where you feel, okay, I can handle looking at this on my own, there's a practice that I've developed called the Lucid Imaging Nightmare Solution. And this is a practice that you can use as soon as you've woken up from a disturbing dream. Check in with yourself first. Am I okay to work with this dream, knowing that you are safe and you can stop the process at any time. And if you feel ready to go back into that dream, then you just stay in bed, and you close your eyes and you replay the dream or the nightmare. But this time, you're like a movie director. Okay, so you can fast forward the action, you can rewind, you can do what you like. You're in charge, right? And so what I often say is a good idea is to rewind to the tipping point of that dream. So the moment that it went from being a dream and changed into a nightmare. Okay, so for example, it's the moment when you're in the attic, poking around the attic, and suddenly the monster leaps out of the cupboard. That would be the tipping point in that dream. Sometimes there's no real tipping point. It starts as a nightmare and it's awful all the way through. But if there is a tipping point, that's a good moment just to play around with. And then you can just replay it. But instead of being the helpless victim who runs away very scared or who fights back in panic, you can choose your response. You're lucid within that space. So you can react in the nightmare as if you are lucid in that dream. You know what's happening. You know that you're dreaming. You can respond in any way that you like. And so I'll run through some of the possible responses, because sometimes all people need to do is hear these possibilities in order to feel more empowered in their dream life, because we're so, like, our brains are so incredible at absorbing information. Once we have it in our heads, I could do this or I could do that, then that can already help our dream lives to become better. So one of the things, for example, that you could do is you could immediately create an egg of light around you. The egg of light is a really, really good protection to use when you're doing waking dream work with a scary dream, or when you're lucid in a nightmare, for example. So that's really nice to feel protected. You can also call on allies, as in with the dream that I mentioned earlier, and you get these surprising allies coming out and they're there to defend you. That's really good. You can ask for help, ask a strong friend for help, or just call for help from whoever that you believe in to get them to come and help you in that situation. Another thing which is really great is, it will sound funny maybe, but it's singing. When you sing in a dream or a nightmare, then it can be very, very empowering. It's incredible, actually, generally, to try and sing in a dream, because your voice reverberates through the whole dream and it has this power. So singing or praying or repeating a mantra can really transform the dream. And you could also create a ball of golden light or healing light and bring that into the nightmare scenario just to see what happens, or send love and light to transform whichever energies are in there that are creating this disturbance. And you could also ask for a gift from the nightmare figure and see what they give you. That can be very surprising and quite amazing. And you can simply ask them, why are you chasing me? Or why are you attacking me? Why am I having this nightmare with you in it? What do you represent? What do you symbolize? So those are just some of the options that we can use when we do dream work and we re-enter a difficult nightmare, and also when we become lucid in a dream where things feel threatening. And so with the lucid imaging nightmare solution, very often just the fact of going back in there, feeling fearless, we leave fear at the door because we know this is okay, I'm in charge of this process now. That can just free you up to find out why this dream has happened. Why is this nightmare shouting at you? What's going on in your life? Which part of your life does it resonate with? And you'll often come out of that dream re-entry with a much deeper understanding of the nightmare and of what it's trying to tell you. And hopefully as well to have a feeling of security and a sense of having healed. Yeah. So it can be very good to try that sort of practice.
Well, thank you for sharing your nightmare solution here with us, listeners on this DreamWork Summit. And
you're welcome.
What I'm hearing is that there is more than one or two things a nightmare sufferer can do, and that there's a lot of options, really.
Yes.
So I'm taking a lot of options. Please say more about any of those if you'd like. If you want to expand there, please do. Yeah,
one thing I'd like to talk about as well is animal energy. in dreams. I mean, animal energy is fantastic. I hear from so many people, recently I've heard from so many people who have been chased by bears. And, bear is healer, this is the healer. I mean, chased by the healer. So it's good to turn around and face the bear in your dream or in your dream re-entry practice, and ask, what's your message? Or what are you bringing to me? How can I help? Ask it, how you can help it, just to find out what's going on. Because I think animal energies in dreams are really fascinating. And when we work with our dream animals, we can harness as well their energy. And sometimes it's protective energy, sometimes it's healing energy, sometimes it's a galvanizing energy, a bit like the corset in the example I gave earlier. It's like, come on, you have to move, you have to change things in your life. So it can have that kind of energy too. One of the things I get that, if I'm working on a book and it's like there's so much work to do and I've got my deadlines and I'm thinking, oh no, I just want to go and do something else. I'll often get tigers coming up to me in my dreams, and they can be quite, sometimes they'll grab me, by the arm. They won't really hurt me, but they'll just grab me in their jaws. It's like, Claire, come on, give us some attention, or just to say, come on, Claire, you've got to get down to this. You've got to get this creativity flowing again. And they really help me like that. And then when the creativity is flowing, I'll have dreams that I'll see tigers lounging on riverbanks, looking really chilled out. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, everything's good. So they can give us all sorts of lessons. But I think they have this power that we can harness, these dream animals. So I think that's something to look out for, and ask yourself as well, who am I when I dream? How do I react in my dreams? What happens when I get scared? Do I run away? Do I freeze in terror? Do I fight? Try and figure out who your dreaming self is, and ask yourself, what would I like to change about that? Or am I happy with it as it is, Or do I feel I could be a bit more, I could stand up for myself a little bit more in my dreams? Or what do I feel? Because you can change it. And this is the wonderful realization that we have when we work with dreams and other transitional states of consciousness, that we can change so much. We don't have to be stuck. We don't have to be stuck in our lives. We don't have to be stuck in the same kind of relationship patterns or the same sort of patterns we have with our boss or the people we work with. We can change things. So dream work really teaches us this, that we have this fantastic potential for change, and a fantastic potential as well for healing ourselves and for healing others. And I think this is one of the things that struck me as well when I wrote the nightmare book, because it was a really difficult book to write, because everybody sent me all these nightmares and their life story, and it was very, very powerful psychic material. But it was incredibly transformative to work with these dreams. And I realized, wow, we have such a power within us. All these dreams that went into the book were so powerful, Kim. It was just incredible, I felt really honored to work with those dreams. It's like we have this power, we have this healing potential within us. And when we open up to it, well, the sky's the limit. It's like you can go as far as you like with it, and it can really create positive change in your waking life as well. So it's just incredibly worthwhile to pay attention to every kind of dream that we have,
You've said so many important points, and I think one of many is that one doesn't need to be a lucid dreamer to benefit from what dreams can offer. Knowing that dreams serve us, we can work with them as we're going into them, as we're waking up from them, or re-entering the dream. And I have seen the power of that with my own clients as well. So such important points. Well, maybe a fun question before we wrap up would be, you've talked about animals, and I know we both love our dream animals.
We do.
Very much. I'm always struck about the dream animals that we don't see in this waking reality, mythological dream animals. Do you have anything you might want to share about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, like with the dragon dream that I shared earlier. And I tell you what, there were so many dragon dreams that came through from people who, like when I was writing the nightmare book. And I think that's amazing, and I loved especially the hybrids where you'd get like a mixture. It's like half dragon, half lion, or and it's just like, wow, where does this come from? And I heard a lot about hybrid animals generally, so not sort of the usual mythological beasts that we've heard of, but also half dolphin, half crocodile, And I think these are fascinating energies to work with because they show as well the transitional energy. They show that we're in the middle of some sort of a transformation. There's some sort of psycho-spiritual transformation going on, possibly. What I've loved seeing as well is when people work with these dreams in workshops, what they come up with, realizing the aspect of themselves that is like a dolphin and the aspect which is like a crocodile. So you've got that level of things, what it could be to do with your personality on one level, but I think it goes deeper than that as well. It goes into the collective unconscious, and these are ancient things that come up in our dreams, these mythological creatures, and it's the same with alchemical symbolism. I've often noticed this coming up in dreams. Once, actually, it was when I was writing the nightmare book and it was all going well. And I had a dream that I was sitting on a bench with a woman and she'd had this beautiful baby. It was a baby girl. She was about 6 months old. And she was vibrant, amazing, just glowing with life, this baby. And I was just admiring her and talking about her with her mother. And then I looked down and I saw that on her knees, she had alchemical symbols tattooed in blue ink. And I was like, wow, a baby with tattoos. Wow. And, alchemical. And so after that dream, I looked up the alchemical symbols and they were for fire and water. And so that made total sense with my nightmare book, which had felt very volcanic. And then you've got water, which is like, the unconscious, often linked to that. And this baby who was 6 months old, and I'd been working on the book intensively for 6 months. So it was a wonderful dream telling me that the book was going well, that everything was great, and that all these energies were kind of in harmony. They were in balance at last. So things like that come up in your dreams, I don't know. It's just fascinating to see what our dreams will present us with. And I've heard so many great dreams from people who have just been so great about sharing their dreams, sharing these really intimate, stories of their dream life with me. And so I think there's always more to discover. And there are so many ways into dreaming. And if we keep an open mind and stay interested in what's happening in our dreams, then we forge a deeper connection with ourselves, and we can bring our lives into greater harmony. Yeah.
Well, those are perfect final words. And there is always more to discover. That's definitely true. Well, maybe any final thoughts before we wrap up on dreams? Maybe any encouraging words to someone new on this path?
Yeah, I would say keep a dream journal and just note down the themes that come up in your dreams. The dream journal is like a really vital connection with the dreaming mind. And it doesn't have to be every day if you can't manage it. And it doesn't have to be that you write down huge dreams. Maybe at first your dream recall is not that great, doesn't matter. You can just write down a color or an emotion, if that's all you remember. And gradually you'll begin to have greater dream recall. And dreams are like flowers, when we bring them our attention, it's like having sunlight and water, they'll blossom and they'll create these incredible stories for us. And before you know it, you'll barely be able to write down all your dreams because your dream recall will be so great. And so they really are a marvelous friend. I think our dreaming mind can really be our best friend if we allow it to be, if we welcome it into our lives. So I would just say that really, welcome your dreams and your nightmares, because they are your friends and they are here to heal you. Your dreaming mind wants you to heal. Yeah.
Beautiful. Excellent. Well, I know, Claire, so many people will have questions and want to contact you. So is it true that we can reach you at deepluciddreaming.com?
Yeah, that's right. deepluciddreaming.com is my website. And through the winter, I'll be giving various online workshops and online retreats. And I normally do my retreats in Portugal, as you know, Kim. But for the time being, I'm having to do them online, and that's okay. And I'll do a yoga nidra course as well. I'm just trying to use this time to create video courses as well. And so anyone can contact me through my website if they would like to. I'd be delighted to hear from them. Yeah.
Great. That's exciting stuff. So thank you so much for being here today. It was
Thank
really
you, Kim.
nice. It was really
it's
nice.
lovely to see you again.
You as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the DreamWork Summit, brought to you by the Shift Network. To learn more, visit thedreamworksummit.com. To join our global community of people awakening to their divine humanity and taking inspired action, visit theshiftnetwork.com. Thank you again for gathering with us and for sharing this healing path with your friends and family.